Welcome everyone to the Creative Moment episode 6. We are on Kept the Consistency. We're on episode 6. I'm Dante Bullhauer.
Jamie Bullhauer.
I'm a photographer. He's a writer. And this is a podcast where we talk all things creativity, different topics on how they play into our lives, things like that. So the perennial commencement of our podcast.
How about just the introduction? Sound effect.
Sure. So today we are talking, is creativity a nurture versus nature type thing? Is it something that's learned, or is it just kind of, one of those things that you're born with, you either have or you don't have? And then we're also going to get into some technology stuff. So jam-packed episode today. So I'll let you go ahead and take it away to begin with. Is creativity a learned thing? Is it something that everybody can pick up, or is it just kind of something that you're born with, kind of like a personality trait type thing?
Yeah, so a little rewind just a touch, because it just came back from Atlanta, Skills USA, and had some time to think, but also just got to see so many students showcasing their talents and stuff like that. And especially on Thursday, when a lot of the competition was ending, and then Friday was awards and some other stuff, but really started to see some final products. There's a makeup contest, and these teams were coming out. One of them was all decked out in like the rabbit from Alice in Wonderland, different horror, like it must have, that part of the contest must have been like Hollywood makeup or something. There was welding art. There was cabinet making. I mean, they're just, and being in an environment for a full week of a contest that highlighted and showed creativity, but not kind of what we normally think of writing, drawing, photography. Even though photography was one of the contests, because your sister was in that one. You got to see some students displaying some incredible skill, but also their talents coming out and some of the creative things that they would do within that. And I do have a degree in psychology, so this idea of nature versus nurture has always been a hot topic in the...
So what he says is fact.
Yeah.
It is the law.
So the pendulum has always swung a little bit, that, we're nothing but a blank slate, and we're whatever we learn, to, you're born with everything you ever need, type of thing. And there's not a hard, this is exactly what it is, but in the realm of creativity and coming off of a comment by Shane, again, thank you for commenting, the idea of, is this something that we can take a person and teach them to be a great artist, teach them to be a great cabinet maker, or is it something that's, born in them? And that question is really interesting, even within the dynamics of our family, because we just have a wide range of people doing different things that are all kind of creative, but I can't quite act like Sebastian can. Okay, no, yes, I've tried, but I'm not. I take photos. If you follow my Instagram account, I try to be artsy or whatever, but but I'm not, also, I don't want to be a photographer. That's not my, JC and Gianna really draw, and stuff like that. So is it part of the genetic code that is a part of the makeup, or is it because we have fostered that? We have always done just fun things. So I'll not give my answer exactly yet, but I'll see what you think as a child,
a young adult,
but still a child of this family. And I'll have a sip of my bubbler.
It's an interesting question, and just in the past 2 minutes, I've gone back and forth on it. And thinking of like how I define creativity is just like an expression of yourself, that type of stuff. And yes, there are several things that you can learn, the technical side of all the creative stuff. You can learn how to take a photo and what is a good photo in terms of lighting, in terms of composition, in terms of all that different stuff. You can learn what a good poem is or a story based on plot and character development. Like there's technical things that are part of the creative realm that anybody can learn. But actually being creative, and in terms of how I define it, is expressing yourself. I think that that's more of just learning that part of it and learning how to express yourself in what medium you use, whether it could be even just like public speaking or like welding art. So different, like we talked about my grandpa making that pancake flipper machine thing. So I think everybody has, I guess, a creative gene to an extent, because it's just learning how to express yourself in that unique way. And it doesn't always look like what we kind of can find creativity to be: photography, art, painting, that stuff. But you can still be creative in the way that you live and the things that you do, even if it's not kind of the abstract, the arts type thing. So I think that it's something that we're all kind of born with, but learning to express yourself and learning how to channel that creativity into something meaningful is the challenge. Okay. And that's why some people, it's just the way they lived. Some people it's brought out easier than others. Some people it's not, that type of thing.
Yeah. And there's a couple of things, and I just had a lot of time a little bit as I waited, because schedules got changed and stuff while I was in Atlanta. Brought up Grandpa Soucy. He's also an artist, though. He draws.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Well, because he's so known for welding. Like, Stephen King does music. Langston Hughes, my favorite poet, wrote children stories and plays, and actually wrote an autobiography, and so I know it's still writing, but he's mostly, when you hear Langston Hughes, oh, it's poetry. No, he's got a breadth of work that covers all kinds of other areas, and in that sense that, because as a teacher I always hear, and that I try to do creative things in my class, just to, even if it's drawing, it's like, well, I can't draw. I can't do this. I'm not creative. I always hear that all the time, and I'm like, yes, you could draw a stick figure, but you got to have, a shirt on or something, to make it look like a person, but to get them to connect to that. And I know it's anecdotal evidence and stuff like that, but if you ever notice, though, those classes where we got to do that, and I finally got them past that idea, I can't draw, I can't do lots of cool things. They always showed up on, I'd put them on the wall and stuff like that, but they would come through and really do something pretty creative. And what I always liked, and what I think gives evidence to the idea that it's a part of us, and is that it's always amazing. I always enjoyed that they would turn and they would show people. They started out with fear, work through that, give them the okay, whether it's a stick figure or no, you don't have to color it or whatever, and then they connected what we're doing, and then all of a sudden they're like, look what I did. Now they may not want to show the whole class, but they would always show friends with that part. So is it just one of our foundational characteristics that we're born with?
That's the because kind of to put this in weird science terms, like evolution, innovation, that type of thing is, in my opinion, someone being creative and trying something that, a thought that they have. It's something like that is how we got to here, how people had these ideas to have a car was because we had this. Like, I feel like we've always had that sort of emotion, but now we've kind of channeled it into this is being creative and kind of having that like abstract ideas in your mind, where think everybody just has a different perception. Everybody has that sort of like abstract thinking because they're the only ones that have experienced what they've experienced. But then just actually putting it out into the world, into something that's tangible, is the creativity part that we all have. It's just that expression of it that we call creativity.
Yeah.
Is my input.
And because building off of that a little bit, like everything around us, if you really think about it, was an idea. Somebody had an idea and then they moved it into the real world. Right? Like we're on YouTube, we're podcasting, we're drinking, a bubbler. It's like that was actually an idea first. Somewhere down the
But stuff
down
that
the line.
you wouldn't normally consider making a sparkling water drink being creative.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think it's kind of, if you think in terms of, no, not everybody can be a photographer, not everybody has that eye, not everyone can be a writer. Yes, that's correct, but everybody can have a creative expression based on what their skill set is, what they're passionate about.
Well, and that brings in the nature part, though, because so would you be a photographer if we never got you a camera? I kind of think you were, because you were already involved in Strive. Would if thinking of all those students in Atlanta with Skills USA and stuff, a lot of them have opportunities because they join an organization, but if you don't have an environment that brings that out, or maybe you have a different situation, that your life is really tough, hard to, have the means to do something.
The last thing on your mind is doing something
And it's interesting, our idea of creativity and what it actually is. Just for fun, I looked up the hashtag creativity on LinkedIn, and it came up with over 200,000 jobs with that tag to it. That's a part of the job. Now, some of it was social media. I kind of looked through a couple of them were education field, and different things like that. There's lots of studies about creativity and divergent thinking and stuff. And they all kind of say, as kids, you're very creative. And then as you get older, that fades away. But that might be because of the environment, in school. And I love school. I love education. Okay. But I cannot disagree that this emphasis of testing and getting our scores and only concentrating on that stuff, that doesn't lend itself to an environment that allows an expression of any kind of creativity, because we're so stuck on, well, this is what it means to be educated. And I actually think creativity is a part of that.
That's why I didn't go to college.
I know. But that also brings us to our other debate, though, because our environment is changing in our society, and drastically, in just over the 10 years, is technology. And on the everyday aspect is this environment, this existence to where our life looks like this. Is that actually affecting creativity overall in a negative way?
Now this is a tough one for me, because a lot of my creativity is technology based, and a lot of yours doesn't have to be at all.
Doesn't have to be, no, and it is shared with it. We'll get into that, but it's an interesting.
I think I really like this topic because I feel like it's very much based on what you do with the technology. So I kind of talked about this last episode with, I try to only surround my social media with, I follow only people that post photos like that I'm inspired by, that sort of thing. Whereas I could easily spend an hour on TikTok scrolling through endless instant gratification videos, and then get done with it, and someone asks me what's one video you saw, I'm not for certain that I could say a video that I watched.
So can I, because TikTok was one of my anecdotal things as a teacher, is when it first came out, I had to fight everybody making TikToks, like doing the dances, and I got involved in a couple 7th graders and stuff, just, not a big deal. Now my battle with TikTok is exactly what you said. Is everybody's just this. They're just nobody even makes them hardly anymore. It's all about watching the top tier, the people who have put in a lot of time and energy.
This is definitely not a quote that I made up, but I told this quote to some people this fall when I went to some schools to kind of talk at. And I said, the kind of light bulb moment for me when I realized, like, I want to do this whole creative thing, photography, graphic design, that whole thing, was when I stopped consuming to consume and I started consuming to create. And so
okay,
that's definitely a quote that's been said before. But I did think of it myself. It's definitely not original, but I kind of welded that together, so to speak. So when I stopped watching, or when I stopped scrolling through Instagram just to hit like, move on, and started scrolling through Instagram and saying, oh, I like that, I like how they did this, I started kind of more analyzing the post and how I could apply what they did here to my own photography. Was when I started to kind of, like, this topic, I think that technology has enhanced my creativity because I know I am using it in a different way than just consumption for consumption's sake. And so that's kind of where I think it's all about how you use the technology that makes it better or worse. Your thoughts?
I would agree, but I think the environment that we have is that you're with other people and stuff like that, yes. But I honestly think that the general population, like, it's destroying creativity. It's destroying conversation. I'm not trying to be a doomsday type of person. I'm, even at Atlanta and stuff like that, and we were at the play the other night. If you notice how many phones are just out, just consuming as we wait. Nobody's really talking to each other. Nobody's sharing ideas. Nobody, it is, brain freeze, a TED Talk. Oh, there's a TED Talk about the balance of work and free time. And in that TED Talk, and I totally apologize for not remembering it, it has this graph that shows our free time.
Now what I'm going to do is show you how much of that space is taken up by screens across time. In 2007, this much. That was the year that Apple introduced the first iPhone. 8 years later, this much. Now, this much. That's how much time we spend of that free time in front of our screens. This yellow area, this thin sliver, is where the magic happens. That's where your humanity lives. And right now, it's in a very small box.
And what we do, and that's a part where we're, fill our bucket, ignite our passions, and stuff. And yes, we could do that and work to a degree, but everybody kind of works the same. And we all have...
I just watched a TikTok where it was like a bunch of jelly beans, and it's like, this how much time you spend sleeping, this is work. And then it's just this little square of free time.
Yeah, there's not that much free time. And what he showed in there since the start of the iPhone and stuff is that our time on our phones has continually crouched and taken away more of that free time. Now, a TED Talk is a great TED Talk. He breaks down that and shows that it's what you're doing on the phone that leads to your happiness or unhappiness. Problem was that most people were on apps that did not make them feel good. Doom scrolling, doing, just consuming other people's lives, I'm missing out, and other apps, though, like exercising and music, So that TED Talk leads to that is what we're doing with the technology. But the problem is he showed overall, most of us are on our phone or on technology doing things that don't even make us feel good. Makes us feel bad about ourselves, makes us worried about the world we're in, not producing, just consuming with that aspect.
Which is a really interesting dynamic when you actually go in depth and look at it, because if I were to look at my life and the most fun times that I've had throughout my life, my phone was no part of it. Like whether it's swimming, whether it's like hiking in Colorado where, you have no service anyway, you can't be on your phone. But like you will never remember a day that you like sat on your phone all day scrolling or watching TV or something as that being like a memorable day. And so the point that like I see scientists make and I read articles is the instant gratification of a TikTok makes you laugh is so much easier to do than to go out frisbee golfing and enjoy that for like an hour, enjoy the bond that you have with your friend that you go frisbee golf with, something like that. It's so much easier because our phones are right here. Like, I don't know the last time I left my house without my phone, like probably years ago. And so it's just easier. And we know that like, oh, I would have more fun doing this right now, but this is right here and I can just like laugh, whatever, watch videos and then be done with it. And so it seems simple. The solution seems simple when you look at it, but it's so hard to combat that because it's just such a subconscious and integral part of our lives now. It's just being around technology.
And that is creating an environment that affects our creativity. And I tried to change that, with it in my classroom stuff. Like my seventh graders, we do our micro poetry, and I tell them just go take a bunch of pictures. That I show examples of stuff. And yeah, we're using their phones, but they have to bring them back. They've got to write a poem based off of that, and stuff, and showing, to a degree that you can do things with the technology. And honestly, as you were talking, though, I thought one of the cool moments in your life did have technology, at least had your camera, when we went to Minneapolis and went to the falls, and, made sure to take pictures, but it was creating and investing in the experience, not we're going to go sit next to a fall and look at our phones, we were there to get some shots, to do some things like that before the basketball tournaments.
I kind of like to use this word over like happiness in terms of kind of how I view, like, is this a productive day? Is this something productive that I'm doing? And instead of like happiness, there's a lot of things I can do that make me happy, but there's not a whole ton of things that make me feel fulfilled. And so I like to say like, okay, do what gives you fulfillment and do what like fills your bucket. And actually, because there's a difference between happiness and fulfillment to me. I can be happy at any given moment, but to feel fulfilled and to feel like, this is where I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be doing is a whole different type of thing. And yes, a video can make you laugh, it can make you happy, but I don't think that scrolling through technology, just kind of mindlessly consuming, will ever make you feel fulfilled. And so that's kind of why I'm trying to be more intentional about how I use social media. It is difficult. It still is just a subconscious thing, but I try to constantly think like, okay, what will fulfill me today, whether it's emotionally, creatively, or whatever.
Okay, so on the debate of whether creativity can be learned or is a part of us, I think we both agree it's a part of us. Like I sometimes people have to discover what actually they can express themselves through, and part of that is the environment. The environment helps ignite your creativity and stuff like that, and so the environment is important, which then leads to the technology question. My answer to that is that honestly, I say that yes. At the moment, generally, I think technology is actually negatively affecting our culture's expression of creativity.
We both agree on it's part of us. Yes, your environment does have a lot to play in it. In terms of the technology debate, in the grand scheme of things, the general population, it's pretty easy to tell it is negatively affecting creativity. It's negatively affecting a lot about our lives. But in terms of just creativity, most of it is so easy to get sucked into that just endless consumption that yes, I believe blanket statement is negatively affecting. But I also think that you can use it to positively affect your life. You just have to kind of change your mindset of why you're consuming what you're consuming.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
Yeah.
But if we had to do the pendulum thing,
yes, I would say negatively if I had to say like
just like
majority
class.
rules, yes.
It's one or the other. You don't get to sit on the fence. In class, I never let them sit on the fence.
Yes.
They had to sit up, choose.
Personally, I'm on the other side, but generally I'm on. So yeah, do it that what you will. Let us know what you guys think on both these topics. I'd love to know how you guys are using technology either negatively or positively, and then what situation you're in or that you want to put yourselves in to nurture that creativity that you are naturally born with.
Yeah. So if you liked it, hit the like button, share this with your creative friends, subscribe, stay updated. Hey, we're doing a good job on the consistency.
We are.
So
only 6, but yes, we have been consistent. So this was the Creative Moment episode 6, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.